Hello all. So today we'll be talking about server administration with Business Central 2022 Release Wave 2. Uh, let's understand why we are talking about it because on some of the videos that I have recorded in the past, there were some questions around it. And people who don't know about it, let's first understand the context of it and then we'll start getting into it. So with the announcement of 2022 Release Wave 2, if you don't know, in MSDN on this page, there is a section called removed or deprecated features, where Microsoft lists down what they have deprecated or what they will be deprecating going forward. So when you scroll around this is what's coming in future, what's getting deprecated and all. But here in 2022 release wave 2, which is version 21, Microsoft listed this as Business Central Server administration tool will be removed. The following feature will be removed from Business Central 2022 Release Wave 2 and future releases. The Business Central Server Administration tool for configuring the Business Central Server in on-premise installation, because that's where it is, will be removed in this release. Please use Windows PowerShell commandlets that we make available with Business Central Administration instead. So the Windows PowerShell commands were available from, if I'm not wrong, NAV 2013 R2 and higher. And they were available. Some of us were using them, and some of us kind of ignored them because we had the easy way around. So if you haven't watched the video about the installation of Business Central 2022 Release Wave 2, I'll highly encourage to go and watch that. I'll add the link later into it, where we did talk about uh, how you see a difference in installation between Business Central version 20.0 to 21.0 and what's missing in the installation component. So now we understood the concept about it. Let's see uh, what it looks like. So for that, let me first open my taskbar and let's search for Business Central Administration. So in the older versions, which is Business Central 20 and Business Central 14, we had this window which we utilized to manage our services. Let's say this one, administration. Yeah. Okay. This used to give us a nice GUI to kind of manage our services while we need to do certain changes. It made it easy to kind of start the service. If it is started, then stop the service. You can change the username that is used to run the service. From here, you can change the account that's needed. And then not just that, you can also update these parameters that I'm trying to point this database to another database. I would like to change the port numbers. I would like to change other settings on the service. Those all were possible with this panel, which is available till previous release. In the current release, when you install Business Central 21, you don't get this panel and you can't access the service with the previous version administration panel. So now let's talk about what we do using this panel and see how it is possible with the latest release. And if you're watching it live right now, and if you have any questions, you can surely add them in the comments, and I'll make sure that I try to answer those as we go through it. Okay, so first thing what we did is we did start the service. Now there are different ways to work with these commandlets. The first common way is to just search them here, saying to the central administration, which is okay. Let me see. I have multiple. So okay, administration. So when you click on this, what you will get is, okay, let's do that. Administration shell. Okay. So it's something like this. You will get a command prompt like this, but as soon as this gets loaded, it is supposed to run as administrator, as it says here, because it is not running as administrator. That's why we get this error message. And then you get this GUI to kind of manage this, to run these commands. As I would like to do things easily, what I would prefer is to do it from a GUI panel. And for that, what you need to do is you need to search for PowerShell ISE on your computer, which is this option. And then from there, you need to make sure that you run it as administrator. Once you open it, it opens a window that you might have seen in past, which we utilize to do certain things. But to run those commands, because at this point, and then from view menu, you can always open this command add-on, which gives you a GUI kind of feeling so that you understand. Uh, you can see what parameters are there, what kind of values you can set, and all those things. So that makes it a little bit easier from that perspective. But to understand which of these commands I need to run, first I'll have to inform the Windows PowerShell that I would like to search for some commands. Like if I want to restart a service, there should be a command called restart service, which I don't see. Nav service or business intelligence service, which I don't see. I just see a restart service. So to explain the PowerShell that I would like to run some business intelligence command, I'll have to import the module which have these commands. How you do that? You just do import module, then you do your path, which is program files, the central, 10, service, and then there's a file called nav admin tools.ps1. This file have all these commands which Microsoft ships with the product. So as soon as you run this, you'll see that the similar kind of commands as we saw in that command prompt will also be available here. And we'll go through whatever of these are mandatory. To see what's available, you just need to hit refresh here and refresh with the latest commands that you have done. You can also filter out this panel for Microsoft Nav Management. I'll show you all the nav commands that are there. Now let's start with the basics. What we typically do, the first thing we do is we stop or start the service from here. Say, okay, start, restart, stop. So how you do it here? You just do a, let's say stop, and then nav server instance, which is the service. My service is BC210. So what I'll do is I'll just have to key in my service name, and I'll say BC210, and I'll say yes, run. As soon as I do that, it did stop the service, and I should be able to see it here. I can't manage it here, but I can see that it got stopped. The next one is I would like to start that. So I'll just change it to, and let me zoom this in if it is not visible, to start nav. And for some reason, it's still called nav, but that's okay. PC210, and I'll do a run. And it'll start the service, whatever time it takes. And then it'll show you that, you know, it got started. So the very common operation that we did are available here. Start pending. As soon as the PowerShell commands kind of complete itself, the service will start. So these are simple things that you can do directly utilizing PowerShell. Now let's come to the next common thing that we do from here. You might want to create a new service tier for Business Central 21.0. Let's say a new service called test. What we would have done with this panel is we would have said, okay, I would like to add an instance. And then in that instance, I would have to define all these parameters which are required to run the service. Now, how we do it in the Business Central 21 is using the PowerShell command. this got started. Now, when you have to create a new instance of a service, the command will start with new, and we'll call it nav server instance. Okay. It also have the similar option to come here and say what is the instance name. I'll call it test. Which type of authentication you need. Say Windows. What is your client service port? As we know, each service, at least in the simple word, have some predefined ports. What are these ports? Let's go into the older version. The client service is this. So let's take this number and replace it with 9, just to keep it simple. Management service port, let's give it a unique number. Server, sorry, is localhost. And then my service port, which is used to connect your VS Code, is needed. So I'll name it as number as 9049. If you want it to be multi-tenant, you can set that up. OData port is 9048. Let's say service account, let's keep it default. Any setting that you don't specify, it works in the same way as it works from the panel, will be copied from the existing BC service that's created already during installation. SOAP, let's say 9047. So I've defined this. You can either run it directly, or if you would like to read it, you can copy it also. You can paste it here to see what parameters I'm setting. So I'm saying create a new service instance where the management service port will be at 9045. The server instance will be called test. The client service credential type is Windows. The client service port is 9046. The database is called demo database 21.0. Database server is localhost. Developer service port is 9049. OData and SOAP. Now, either you can run this or you can run it from here. When you are here and you would like to run one single command, you just need to make sure that your cursor is on that line which you would like to run, and then click on this white and green, which is run selection. As soon as I run this, okay, it doesn't remember this. So let me add double quotes. Yes, that should work here. And let's run it from here this time. So as the command gets completed, let's go back into the BC14.1 and see what happened. Let's refresh this panel and we see a new service being created called test, which is of version 21.0. So what we have done, we have stopped the service, we have started the service, we have created a new service. The next thing somebody asked in one of the previous video comments is how I actually change the service account for a service, which is pretty common. Now for that, let's get back into PowerShell and let's understand it, what you can do from here. So there should be, because we are trying to set some parameter, so we'll do a set nav server instance, and let's see the parameters here. The first is which server instance we are talking about here. I'd say, okay, BC210. Do we want to restart the server instance? If yes, then just hit run and restart it. There is also a command, separate command to restart if needed. Then if you would like to set up a service account, then give that service account. Now that service account have an option string. Now how do I know this? When you import these modules, you also get this question mark here, which is an help. This helps gives you help about these different parameter, what are those allowed values, what each field will need a value to. So you can always utilize the help. If you're clicking it for the first time, it might ask you for installing some module, which will happen automatically on your PowerShell. But that's one-time activity. So let's read it through. It needs a server instance, we know. If I need to stop it, then it stops it. If I want to start it, then start it. Restart means restart the service. And then the service account says Specifies the Windows-based computer account that Business Central server instance is used to log on. The values are network service, if you want to set it to network service, and user that are supported. That means either you do a network service account or a user account like these. So this is that parameter that we are talking about right now. So let's say we set it to user, and then you also need to provide the credential. Now, credential is a little bit tricky here, but how it happens is you need to give a credential object which can be set for that user. And then forces it doesn't ask you for a OK confirmation if you set that up. And then at the end, the cool part is it also gives you some example how you want to set these up. So let's set it up. It's already, our service is already set up for, let's see, network service. I'll just use my domain account to set this up. So I'll say this is user. And for service account credential, if you don't want to have the static password, which I can't do in a live recording, what you should be doing is there is an object which is called as get hyphen credential. And then you would like to, I would like to user to see a message when he does that, enter username and password. What will happen with this object, the get credential object? It'll pop up a window where you can securely enter your username and password so that others next to you or near to you will not be able to see it. And then I would like to make sure that this service, after I set this, gets restart. So you can again do a copy of it. You can do an insert, which will place that here. If I do this like this, or you can directly run it from the panel. So let's run it and let's see what happens. So as soon as I ran that, this PowerShell command prompt is waiting for me to ask which account you would like to set. So I'll say, okay, my domain account, and then if I remember my password. Okay. Let's hit okay. It's doing that change on your service tier. Once it is done, it will make sure that it restarts the service, but then it again failed. It said that, oh, the change happened, but it was not able to start the service. Maybe I don't have permission to make sure to have the domain account, but let's check that. Let's refresh this and see what happened. So if you look at it now, it's changed to my domain account, kind of run it based on my account. If you have to change it back to the network service account, then the command becomes simple. You remove this because network service account does not have a password, and you change it to network service without any space. Okay. If you would like to see what the error message is, you can go to event log and see what permissions are missing, and then you can set those up. But if I have to revert it back to network service, if I run this now, it should revert the service back to use the network service account and restart the service once the operation is completed. So let's wait for that for a while. But okay, let's see what else we have done. We have stopped the service, we have started the service, we have restarted the service, we have changed the account that will be used to run the service that I'm creating, the service account. And it, if you see, it's the network service change has been done, and it's trying to start the service, which will happen in a while. Now, what else we do? Let's think about it. We have created a service. We have done every common thing that's available in this window. The only other thing that we do is we change these parameters, which are here on the configuration. All these different parameters, which are human readable format that you can see. Oh, I would like to change this to this credential type to Windows to username, password, or to other things. I would like to change my database name on the service. Now let's see how you do it now. So to do that, what you will have to do is you'll have to search for a command. What we would like to do, we would like to set something. Is it a user? No. Permission? No. App configuration? No server configuration. Okay. I'm trying to configure my server. Now here it is done again with some parameter. Anything which is a star is mandatory, like key name will come to this and the server instance. And then a confirm and what is the key value. So let's understand what these are. Now, if you would like to see what your server configurations are currently, which is what is your configuration file look like, what you would like to do is you would like to do a get nav server configuration. And you would like to check what are the settings on BC210. And if you would like to see one value, we'll come to that. You can run this and it'll show you all the service settings that are available on the service. If you just want to see the values that are not at its default value and the values that has been changed, you can just check on this boolean called ignore settings with default values and you run it again. It'll only give you things that I have changed on the service. The default database I have changed, the server name I have changed, I might have changed provided file type and the other settings and all. Now it's a huge list to see what are these settings, and it's very hard to remember all this. So what you do, let's actually go ahead and physically open that file. So let's open VS Code. You can use any editor. It's not VS Code, that's mandatory. You go into your BC210 service, and then there is a file called custom setting.config. You click open, and whatever you were seeing there, and let me change the theme of it so that we can read it together. Okay, light should work. Let me see. Is it more lighter? Okay. Okay. I'm not sure sometime what goes best on the recordings, but let's pick this one. This looks good. Okay. So here are all the settings based on which your service has been created in that panel. Whatever you see on that panel, more than that is available here. Your database server, your database instance, your database name, your you know, and they also provide you help around it. What this does, what is the service name, what is the SQL information debugger, and other thresholds and all, port numbers, management service port, other ports. You are completely allowed to change these manually if needed, with the consideration that whatever editor you are using is running as administrator. That editor should always be running as administrator if you would like to change any of these values from the file directly. Uh, if you would like to go back and understand how to do it from PowerShell, it's pretty simple. It's a JSON file, which is a name value pair, which is the key and the value, as you see. It's not JSON typically, but it's a key value pair. It's the key and the value, and that's what a typical JSON look like, more or less. But this is what your PowerShell is asking. If you are doing a get and you would like to get one value from your service tier, you can just utilize that value. So if I would like to get the database name, I just need to use the key, which is database name, come back here and say, I would like to get the value of database name key on service BC210 and run it and tell you the return value of that, or the value that is assigned to that key is demo database BC21.0. If you would like to change this, and this might not restart because I'm not doing that way, I don't have another database. But if I do a set nav configuration, I'll say, okay, my key value will be, let's say 22.0. My key name is database name, and the service that I would like to change it is BC210, and I'll run this. The setting has been changed, and as we all know, whenever you change a setting, you need to stop and restart or start the service again. Let's see, it did actually change on my file. And if you see, it actually did change on my file to 22.0. So either you do it from PowerShell, either you do it from the file directly. It's up to you, whatever you are comfortable with. But if there are very common setting that you utilize, you can always have your PowerShell stored. But okay, I normally change these 5 seconds. So let me just, have these commands stored on one of the PowerShell window so that I know that, okay, I need to change this, I'll change this. You can do other tricks into it. That's also possible. But I don't think anything else that you need at this point. You can either remember three things. You can either open the file in an editor with administrator, making sure that it is an admin mode, and you can physically change the values if needed, directly change the value in the file, or you can utilize the PowerShell command to do a set nav server configuration with the key name and the key value to set that parameter into. To set up a new service, you all now know that you just need to do a new nav server instance, and that will give you a new nav server instance. Anything that's new is new. If you have to get something that starts with the get verb, and then you get all these commands. This These PowerShell modules are not new. They were there in the product for a very long time. Because we had the panel, we kind of ignored them. And there are other cool stuff into this PowerShell commandlet, which was not even available on the service panel. There are other things that you can do using PowerShell in this, which you would not have been able to do from the command, the GUI window, which was available in the past. Like how you import a license in Business Central, you do it from PowerShell. How you create a new website for a new service tier on IIS is using PowerShell or using these modules. How you actually, if you have to rename a nav company or Business Central company, you can do it from here. And then there are other stuff that is available in this. So I'd highly encourage to go through all these commands. And if you have questions, you can always add it to the chat or into the comments to this video. We'll surely go through that. Let me just quickly check, did I miss any existing question that I had? And if not, then we should be good there. Let me see. Okay, there was a service account change, which we have done, which we have talked about. And somebody said the basic administration, which we have done. If you still have some questions around it, just add it into the comments to this video and I'll make sure that we cover that going forward. So that'll be all for today. See you in the next video someday. This is Saurav Dhyani signing off. Bye.